Hey everybody, welcome again to another episode of Display Landscape. I'm your host, Charlie Brose. With me as usual, my co-host, Mark Knutson. Mark,
Yeah, Charlie.
we have a question for our guests.
We do. We are very curious, and we'd like to know where people are watching the show Disability Landscape. Now, we don't need to know if you're watching it from your recliner or, in the dining room. We want to know what channel you are watching on and the city or suburb that you are watching it from.
Also, we put these programs on our YouTube channel, Disability Channel Minnesota, and we'd like to know if you're watching that and where in the world are you? We've been doing this program for a little over 2 years, and we want to find out who our friends are out there. So, Mark, how can they reach us?
Well, they can reach us if you're watching from a beach. I don't want to know you're on a beach. We're jealous, but send us an email to disabilitychannelmn at gmail.com.
Got to include that part.
Yep, the gmail.com. Disabilitychannelmn for Minnesota. See how clever we are there? At gmail.com. So we'd like to hear from where you're watching us.
Yep, that's very important to us, just to find out who you are. Mark, who do we have today as our guests?
Today we've got, well, I'm not exactly sure if I should say 2 or 4 guests, but you'll see here. We've got the Pacer Center here, and from the Pacer Center, we have Katie Kaufman and Jane Freundland.
Yeah.
I got the names right.
Good. Rock on.
It's a miracle, folks, when Mark gets the name
Right, and this is the puppet program. You haven't hostage anyone here. These are
Yes, exactly.
These are puppets.
Now, you got to say the Pacer Puppet
Pacer,
Program.
the Pacer puppet program, correct?
Right,
Which is a
Pacer
tongue
Puppet
twister.
Program.
Now you have a warm up before you do your next TV
Right,
show.
exactly.
There you go.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
I want to know real quick, do the puppets have names?
The puppets do have names. We have Carmen here.
All right.
And this over here is Sally.
Sally, all right. So, how long has the puppet program been in progress or working out of Pacer Center?
The puppet program is one of Pacer's oldest programs, and it
Okay.
started in
Really?
1979.
Wow.
Oh gosh, I
So-
thought it was
So
For more
Sally
than
and
40
Carmen are
years,
quite old.
Sally and Carmen have been,
have aged well.
yes.
Right? They don't look a day over 8, do they?
Yeah.
No, they
Right.
don't.
I actually, when I was in grade school, I saw this Count Me In show, and I distinctly remember Sally.
Oh really?
And
So you had the same puppets
Yes.
have been there since.
That long.
Since the beginning. The fashions have changed a little bit.
Oh,
okay.
We have to update them.
And the hair.
Yeah,
And
they're
the
no
hairstyle.
longer
And the
wearing
hairstyles.
bell bottoms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, exactly. We have some great vintage photos at Pacer Center of very old school, yes, bell bottoms, very old school fashions and mullets, old hairstyles.
Boy,
So,
they got your pants and my haircut back.
yeah. No kidding. So, what is the Count Me In program or show all about?
Yeah, so the puppet program started right around the same time that kids with disabilities were being brought into, the mainstream public school classrooms.
Yep.
After the
And-
Americans with Disabilities Act.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So the program was sort of designed to educate, neurotypical kids that didn't have disabilities about what their new classmates are like, how they all like to do the same things. Everyone wants to be included, and how they can kind of interact with their new classmates.
Yeah.
So that message is still really important as, there's continued, work against difference,
Right.
and our main message of the program is acceptance, kindness, and inclusion. Okay. So that's still valid.
Right.
40 plus years
which
later.
is just more of an issue.
Yes.
Nowadays. And that,
Yes.
So.
Well, it still is with some younger kids because
Right, yep.
they have to, if you're coming into kindergarten and you've not been around other kids with disabilities, I'm sure it's kind of a shock. It's a little culture shock for you.
Yeah, and one of the main things that's helpful with this show too is that the kids get to ask the puppets questions. Like they get to ask Sally about what it's like to be in a wheelchair, how she does certain things, and it's a little bit more comfortable that way because they're not asking, you know,
Right.
their
They're not asking some
classmate.
adult. Yeah.
Right. Well, and so then you ladies are then educated in what to say for the answers for the puppets.
Yes.
Yes, that's part of our training. So we are puppeteers, and we also have a wonderful roster of volunteers that come into the schools with us. Many who have children with disabilities themselves and are kind enough to offer us their expertise, and that also helps us answer the questions that we might not necessarily be able to answer if the kid asks a very specific question.
All right.
Yeah.
And sometimes we can improvise and say, I'm just a kid, I don't know.
That's our go-to. I'm like, I don't know,
plan.
I
You kind of sound like two hosts here.
Right.
Speak for yourself.
Right.
David.
But now what's we're finding more and more these days is that kids want to tell us about their disabilities at the end of the show,
okay.
which
Oh,
is really
okay.
exciting. They feel, you know, safe enough to
They-
come up to us and tell
They
us
have
all
the
about it.
confidence in themselves.
Yeah.
And even share with the class as well. There's lots of, there's a story that I love. This was before I was at Pacer, of a student was asking Sally a question specific to her wheelchair, and there was a student in the classroom in a wheelchair that ended up answering the question and said, well, this is what it's like for me. So that was one of so many examples that we've had over the years of ways that we've been able to, I guess, make this not foreign, not scary,
Right,
just
right.
make this just another school experience or
But
another
if-
person
if-
unique.
If it gave that young lady the confidence to say, hey, I can answer that question.
Exactly,
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then, because you said you have other volunteers that help you. So when they come, is there more than just two puppets? Do they have puppets that they are using then?
So the whole cast of puppets is 6, I believe.
Wow.
Only 2 puppets are on stage at any one
At
time.
Okay.
And
But-
it takes 3 puppeteers to do a show.
Okay.
So
Okay.
all of our volunteers are actual puppeteers as
Puppeteers.
well. And we do the shows that they can't fill in. we mostly
right, you
have
kinda
them do it, and then we'll fill in when we need to.
Well-
But for the last 2 years,
Oh.
we've been doing
yeah.
shows online.
Virtually,
We've
yep.
doing
Yes.
virtual shows, and we haven't used our volunteers for that.
Oh, right.
So we're now in the exciting process of just restarting the whole program. We have revamped the script. We're bringing in some new puppeteers, retraining some of our existing
So
puppeteers.
we're testing you because this is going to be one of
Right.
your first live ones.
Right.
Yes,
Because we're not going to do a retake or anything.
Oh,
okay?
good. That's what we're doing live,
Yeah,
right?
It's going to be live, and I mean it's going to be on tape, but you're going to get one shot, and that's
It's just because I have to spend so much time editing Mark, I don't want to edit that.
right. Yeah.
That's fair. You know, you only have so much time in
He
the
has
day.
only
Your
so much
editors are
time. He
kept
al-
busy.
He already has to put up with my mistakes. So he said, Mark, you cannot bring anyone out of the show that makes mistakes. Like, okay. So
Yeah. So
But to go back to what we were saying,
Yes.
we are actively recruiting volunteers. If there are people, we ask if you have 4 hours a month to give and would like going into schools and participating in this program, we would love to hear from you. If you go to pacer.org, as well as finding so many other resources, you can
Yes.
also find out information about how to volunteer with our puppet program.
you're right, because I know what I did. I put Pacer Center puppets
And
there-
we pop right up.
and
I
then you
hope.
pop right.
Yeah.
You
Right.
pop right
You
up.
can also Google it. You're absolutely right.
Go to the website, and I'm sure they'll find it there too, and,
Yeah.
and that. So you've got, like you said, you've got 4 other puppets. What purpose do the other 4? Do they have a different type of
Disability.
disability
Yep.
or
All of our puppets have different disabilities.
Okay.
At a certain point, some were talked about and some weren't. We also sell puppets, so we have a lot of like extra scripts that focus on their disabilities. And one script, Carmen, has epilepsy. For the purposes of our script today, she has ADHD.
Okay.
She
I was just
plays
gonna ask
multiple
you-
roles.
Yeah, I was just going to answer because for the disabilities that are somewhat invisible,
Yes.
you won't know
Yeah.
that until you're in
Right.
the
Right.
demonstration. So
And-
let's talk about the remaining ones, and then we can get to you.
Yeah, so we have Gina, who's blind.
Okay.
Carmen, who has ADHD in our script. Sally has cerebral palsy.
Okay.
In the preschool script, we have two shows. We have a preschool show as well as an elementary age show.
Okay.
And the preschool show, she has spina bifida, and I know you were just talking with someone who has spina
Yeah,
bifida
Yes,
yeah,
we
too.
were.
Yes, we had a show with spina bifida, so we should have probably had you brought
And-
that puppet earlier, I guess.
And we also have a puppet who is deaf, Jay, and that's a fun one because it requires two puppeteers. So one to operate Jay's hand so he can sign,
Oh.
and then one to operate Jay's head.
Wow.
So that's a fun one.
Yeah.
Like
So
hand.
instead of puppet arms,
Then they
Jay
got
has
the regular-
dark sleeves
Yeah.
with human arms.
Human arms
Yeah.
are.
that stick
I was-
out of
yeah,
his
thank you,
sleeves.
'cause that's
Yeah.
I'm sure you get that. Yeah, because that's exactly where I was going. So I'm like, how do you do signing with
Well, we'll
hands
often-
like those?
Be tricky.
Yeah, it would
We
be
often
tricky.
have people come through the office and see the puppets, and we always ask, well, what do you think his disability is? Because he's got no arms. So they say, well, I don't know, he doesn't have arms, and we say,
You're right.
yes, but
But
that's
yes,
for
he
a
really
purpose.
But I just wanted to add, when you are looking for volunteers, I would imagine you do not have to have puppet experience, right?
No, absolutely not.
Right.
I didn't when I first came to
Right.
work for Pacer.
So
So
the-
that
but-
is something we
But
are.
they get
hap-
training through Pacer Center to
Yeah,
know the
so-
scripts and know the puppets and all that.
We train people in on memorizing the script and how to, handle the puppets, how to puppeteer well.
We say that all you need is a big heart, and then we will take care of the rest. We will help
But
you memorize.
also, these guys are relatively heavy, and
Okay.
sometimes
Yeah.
you don't realize how it's going to work until you actually put a puppet on your hand. So,
Right.
So, all right, you do a preschool program, and is that ages like 4, 5, or
yeah,
3,
four through 6 we generally do, and kindergartens we'll do the preschool show for as well.
Okay, but is there what's the top grade level that you generally work with?
We go up into 3rd grade.
Okay.
It used to be 4th grade, but we were finding the 4th graders were getting a little too sophisticated for,
Oh,
for
yeah.
the puppets.
While you're doing the puppets, they're on their phone.
Yeah, no.
Right, yeah, the phones have gotten to them by then.
Right.
Exactly. So-
And they're asking those more interesting questions.
Yeah. So
What
our,
gang do they belong in? Or-
questions we're not prepared to answer.
right,
yet,
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's get
Yep.
a demonstration of these lovely young lady puppets, and we can go from there.
sure, we've
Fabulous.
got a scene from our new version of our script.
Okay.
Hey, Sally. Hi, Carmen. How come you weren't at recess today?
Oh, well, I had to stay indoors and do some makeup work the teacher helped me with. I was sick last week, remember?
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Hey, Sally, I really liked how you told our class about your CP. I always wondered why you rode around in that wheelchair.
There are lots of different reasons why people use wheelchairs. For me, it's because of my CP, cerebral palsy. When I was born, there wasn't enough oxygen to the part of my brain that controls my muscles.
Oh, yeah, let me see if I remember. And that makes it hard for you to make your head and your hands and your legs do what you want them to, right?
Yes, and the muscles in my voice. it's a little different for everybody with CP. That's why I talk kind of slow. It takes the muscles in my mouth a little while to form the words. Some people make fun of me and call me dummy because they think I don't know how to speak, and that makes me really sad.
Oh, that's awful. That would make me feel really sad too. No one should be treated that way just because they're different. We should try to understand each other and be kind. And that's why I wanted to know a little bit more about your CP, because I want to understand. And I know that the thinking part of your brain works really well, right?
Oh yeah, I think fast. I can think faster than I can write or talk.
Yeah, you sure are smart in school. In fact, the teacher said if I needed some extra help with my makeup work, that maybe I could ask you.
Oh, really? I'd be glad to help you, Carmen.
Yeah, sometimes it takes me a long time to do my work because I get distracted a lot. I bet you didn't know this, but I have a disability too. It's called ADHD.
What does that mean?
Well, it stands for a long name called Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, which basically means my brain likes to jump around from one thing to another very quickly, and it's hard for me to concentrate.
Isn't that something that makes you hyper?
Well, yeah, for some kids, they can have a hard time sitting still and need to move around a lot. But for me, it just means I have a hard time keeping track of things, and I like to daydream a lot.
Oh, thanks for telling me. That makes sense why you would need extra time to finish your homework.
Yeah, well, I do have some things that help me, like I use a lot of reminders, and I take some medication, and I use a fidget cube in class, and that helps me focus. And hey, you use your computer in class, right? And that helps you.
My handwriting isn't good at all, so I use a computer to help me write in school and to help me write my friend from camp.
You went to camp?
Yeah, I went to a special camp where we slept in a tent and went horseback riding.
Oh, cool. I love horseback. Wait a minute. How did you ride a horse in your wheelchair? Didn't it just like roll off?
No, I didn't ride the horse in my wheelchair. My camp counselor lifted me out of my wheelchair onto the horse and then walked alongside me. I only use a wheelchair to get around on land.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Well, it's really cool. You can do a lot of things I didn't know you could do, Sally, but I bet you don't have to do some things. Like, I bet you don't have to do chores at home because they're harder for you, right?
No such luck. I have to help set the table and make sure my shelves are straight.
Ugh, so do I. Boo.
Hey, Carmen, do you want to come over to my house and play?
Yeah, sure. Well, what do you want to do?
We could play my computer games, and you could look at my bug collection.
Oh, cool. I love bugs. Well, let me check in with my mom, and I'll call you after school, okay?
Okay, bye.
Bye, Sally.
Thanks. That was great. I really enjoyed the performance of Carmen and Sally in that, and also to you two behind the scenes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was informative even to us adults to kind of learn that the kids, and kids are really honest about things. And, you know, to show that through the puppets that, hey, just ask me and I can tell you.
Yeah.
And some kids are curious like that. Others are like, you know, they look at the chair and go, I don't know how to talk to them.
Yeah, because my kids are adults now, you know, but when they were in school, it was always interesting going to, especially grade school, the kids looking, and every school year I'd always tell the teachers, don't worry, if they ask questions, I'm a big boy. I can handle it. Don't be afraid. Questions aren't gonna hurt me. So it is very important to get the younger kids comfortable to talking and interacting with the students with disabilities, and that's where the puppet program can really help.
Yeah, and they find a lot in the show that how many things they all have in common too, which is one of the continuation of the theme of count me in.
Right.
Like everyone wants to be included. We all have things that we enjoy doing. Let's find the commonality and understand the differences and why people need different tools for school or for getting around.
Have you ever considered or used a puppet that represents, as you would say, a neurotypical child interacting with Sally to ask her questions? Do you have such a demonstration like that?
Well, in the previous version of this show, before we updated the script, Carmen was a neurotypical kid in our general Count Me In show.
Okay.
And Mitch, who is also in the show, he has learning disabilities, but it's not discussed. So he's kind of comes across as the neurotypical kid as well.
But with the learning disability, those kids can also be more inquisitive and want to know what's going on and all that kind of thing. So I can see that as working, in that level.
And one of the things that we do actually after the scene that we just saw is Sally will stay on stage and ask the students in the class, like, do you have any questions for me about what it's like to be in a wheelchair?
Okay.
And then that is sometimes an easier point of entry for young people because
it's a visual, it's that visual thing, and they have all these questions as opposed to Carmen. They're not.
Yeah.
Well, ADH. Am I doing the alphabet?
Exactly.
ADHD. They're like the wheelchair. Really,
the wheelchair's such a strong visual.
Right.
Exactly.
it's a strong visual. It brings up all the questions for the kids.
But when they're talking to Sally, do any of them associate that, hey, there's an adult behind here giving me the answer?
I don't know. I mean, I think they play into there's
Yeah,
a
the
character on stage. They just saw Sally performing. They just saw her talking. Because we have volunteer puppeteers, some of our volunteers are better at,
The voice
becoming the puppet
Right.
than others. So the illusion can.
But I think the idea is that they do talk to, and that's kind of why we do this for the age group that we do, going up to third grade. They're more likely to interact with the puppet.
With
so
the puppet,
it's a willing suspension of disbelief is an expression we use in the theater.
Sure.
And there's never a time when they don't ask a bunch of questions. Like everybody wants to take the opportunity to ask Sally questions. We have Gina the blind puppet. They always want to ask her questions. As you said, kids are honest and they are curious. And that is what makes this show really helpful. And if you have somebody Sally's age, a student who is in a wheelchair, maybe she is not yet comfortable, talking about what it's like to be in her wheelchair, but you know what? Sally is.
Right, so it might bring them out of their shell to
Exactly,
do that.
yes.
So they are actually, like you say, the suspension of disbelief. They're actually conversing with Sally.
Very much so, yes.
Okay.
Yep. And when we have them ask Gina questions, we usually have a person that's doing sort of an adult moderator role, and they'll be the person to call on the kids because obviously Gina can't see who's raising their hand. But they also say, ask Gina the question because she's the one answering, not me.
Right.
Now, I was just curious because do either of you or any of your puppeteers have any theater performance background at all?
We do.
The two of us.
I was, because, behind the scenes, when the demonstration was going on, Charlie and I were here and we were able to watch you. And you really facially got into the performance and that. So you both had done some theater then?
Some theater, yep. And some of our puppeteers have some performance background. Some are former educators, so they're just used to being up in front of groups.
Right, yeah.
And some have none, but have always just had a good flair
It's a
for
good
it.
way, yeah.
For now the deaf puppet that you use, and you create the arms so it does the sign language. When you're accepting questions from him,
He doesn't take questions.
he does.
No.
Okay, because
Yeah,
I
that would
thought
be
maybe you would like have an ASL interpreter for him.
No, that would be amazing if we had,
Yeah.
the ability and the budget to do that.
Yeah, we know.
But
Same here. We had a budget too.
But what we do instead with Jay to make the deaf puppet interactive is Jay teaches sign language. So he teaches several different signs for different animals and different foods,
cool.
and the
Okay.
students get to guess, and then they know sign language. And then we all sing happy birthday together. So by the end of the show, everybody knows how to the sign language for happy birthday.
Yeah, and our show song, Count Me In, we
yes.
do a little song at the end of the show which has signs in it as well, and we give the kids a handout to take home with them with the signs and the music.
So,
So we're not going to get you to sing then, right?
You need.
so
suppose we
if
could.
the school, do you approach schools to say, hey, we have this program, or do they call you and go, we'd really like to see the puppets come in and talk to our class?
Both. We do marketing to
Okay.
the schools. We have certain schools that have us again and again.
Again, I was in elementary school a long time ago, and I saw this show. So
Oh, yeah.
They've been doing it for a while.
it's been a while.
Yeah. We
We'll talk afterwards.
We generally perform for the 7-county metro area, the Twin Cities, but this virtual show that we did,
right.
we were able to perform in California, New Jersey,
Oh, wow, really?
Indiana.
So that really does
because
open up a
that
lot
was
of
available.
possibility.
Yeah.
So, all right. We had a great demonstration, but we'd like to know a little more about Pacer Center and any events you might have coming up.
Yeah, well, Pacer Center has been around since 1977, and we provide a lot of resources and services for families of kids with disabilities. We have a great advocacy program that helps parents mostly with student education support and other services they might need for their children with disabilities. We have the Simon Technology Center that
Right, yeah.
provides a lot of assistive technology and also does a bit with STEM and tech for kids with disabilities as well. And the assistive devices are available for adults as well.
Sure.
So that's one exciting bit. We have the National Bullying Prevention Program, which is a more U.S.-wide resource for kids in general and kids with disabilities that just supports in kindness, inclusion efforts.
I know bullying is something that has, gone on for ages and ages.
Yeah.
And it's something difficult to stop, but it is a good program to teach kids that, either A, how to handle it, or B, how to help the bully not be the bully.
Yeah, 'cause do you address that in the puppet shows? Or?
We do have a puppet show called
on-
Kids Against Bullying as
Okay.
well that addresses bullying. We are not doing that show this season because
Okay.
we're just ramping up slowly
back,
and we
okay.
could only bring so much back. But it
Yeah.
does talk about just how to be kind in general, and how someone who bullies might have something else going on, and
Yeah.
and there's some redemptive qualities that they can
Right.
change.
And also, as you said, what to do if you have been bullied.
Yeah.
Advice
Okay.
on that.
So the website is like the main place to go for all of this information. There's so many resources on
There is,
every
yeah.
kind of disability, all sorts of support. So the website is pacer.org,
Okay.
or you can email us at pacer@pacer.org. And we have our first in-person benefit, and some of you may know that we put on a big benefit
Yes, we
every
do.
year.
Big gala.
Yes.
I've been
So
there. I've been to it a
this
couple
year's performers are
Drum roll.
Pentatonics, amazing a cappella group that does wonderful work, and tickets for that are available on our website too, pacer.org.
Awesome.
Because my wife she likes music, and she had mentioned that.
Yeah.
So I know where we will be going.
Okay, well, we'll hope to see you there.
Yeah, yeah.
And the date.
November 5th. Thanks for reminding me.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We're going to do a wrap here. I'm Charlie Brose. This is Mark Knutson, our friends from Pacer Center. You've been watching Disability Landscape. We'll see you next time.